Over the last 7 years, my MSP has partnered with Huntress as our go-to security platform. Detect suspicious endpoint activity, uncover hidden adversaries, and stop business email compromises, and more. The real-time protection includes managed EDR, managed AV with Windows Defender, MDR for M365, security awareness training, and much more. It's no wonder why Huntress has been awarded one of the leading security solutions by G2. You'll hear comments like peace of mind or Huntress, the company that has your back. It is all thanks to their experts in the 24/7 SOC. It's the need a second set of eyes we need. Not to mention, you can receive detailed incident reports packed with expert insights written for all skill levels. To find out more, head over to huntress.com for a 21-day trial so that you can deploy in minutes with zero user interruption. And also tell them that we here at MSP Unplugged sent you over.
Welcome to MSP Unplugged. This is the place to learn how to run your IT service business, whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. My co-host Rick Smith is not on here today, but the fun will continue to go. And what a fun we're going to talk about today. And I think by the time this airs, you have missed the early bird pricing. What am I talking about? I'm referring to TechCon Unplugged. TechCon Unplugged will be in the greater Washington, D.C. area, September 12th to the 14th at the hotel at Arundel Preserve. It is our annual gathering of IT business owners, and it's fast approaching. I mean, I say fast approaching because, when you plan these things, they just happen like that. But we're a little bit of time. It's in September. So if you're trying to think about it, trying to figure out if this is going to be the show for you, you could just join like-minded business owners for a weekend packed full of resources that's going to help your IT business thrive. Your ticket includes 25 educational sessions, 2 networking events and after-hours entertainment, all the expo hall meals and refreshments and happy hours. And the most important is walk away with concrete action items to take your business to the next level. Again, as we mentioned, discount pricing is now live, and that will be until the end of May 31st. Head over to techconunplugged.com to get your tickets there. And as I mentioned, by the time this airs, you'll hear some fun stuff that we have planned, including our pre-day and our Saturday night social. So techconunplugged.com, get your tickets today. All right. I am super excited to introduce this gentleman. He is not shy to the podcast. He has been a recurring guest, but he's got some new digs. Who am I referring to? I am referring to Jimmy Hatzell, who is the CEO and co-founder over at hatz.ai. Jimmy, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Even my day just got 100 times better now that I'm here recording with you, Paco.
I appreciate that. Jimmy, we have known each other for quite a bit now. I think we have interviewed you a few times on several of the businesses that you have partook in and helped elevate their business strategy. You had ranged in various positions, but you are now in the position of CEO and co-founder of this new venture that you're doing over at hatz.ai. For those that may not have heard you about your story or may not, and this is the first time that they may be seeing your face, why don't you tell a little bit about the audience about who you are and how you came to be over at hatz.ai?
Sure. I'm just an IT nerd like everybody else who got lucky, I think. I started my career in IT, and actually I had a heavy focus on cybersecurity. And at some point I moved off of being a technical operator. I was an IT consultant for a while, was a director of IT for a bit, into actually joining a cybersecurity startup. And basically my job was to help productize cybersecurity services, SOC as a service, SIM, these things that are very common now, but were not back then at all in MSP world. So my job was to help productize them for MSPs and build a partner program and take them to market. And I basically spent the past, handful of years in the channel doing exactly that with different cybersecurity products. My background has been almost entirely looking up at enterprise technology or newer technology, betting when it's going to come down market for small businesses, and then productizing it for MSPs and making it easy to co-deliver those services. And, I saw this happening with AI, and I had a really good run in cybersecurity, and I still have a security background, but I realized a little over a year ago that, hey, maybe this AI thing is the next thing, and I launched just back in January hatz.ai, and we got some funding and got some good momentum in the channel, with the idea finding AI use cases for small businesses and productizing those use cases for MSPs so they could put them in the AI business. So that's how we got here. We're just getting started, and appreciate you having me on.
No, absolutely. I think when you made the announcement that you were starting your new venture over at Hatz AI, you were saying, "Hey, who's the favorite podcast that you want me to be on and listen to?" And so I think a bunch of people gave suggestions and such, and then I think you were reaching out to people. And my suggestion was because of our rapport, I suggested obviously Marvin B over at IT Business Podcast. But as I've told you on there online, and for anything in the future, Jimmy always has an open door here. So whenever you need the time, we always love to support your efforts, especially on all the things that you've done as well. So appreciate you taking the time and coming out. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a privilege, man. Like you've done so much for the community. I've been out to TechCon Unplugged. Like we were out in Jersey last year at the Delta Hotel in uh I forget exactly what town it was, but I know that there's a White Castle there. That's the one that short
yeah,
off. So happy to support you there, and love everything you do for the IT community. So anytime I got something cool and worth doing, I'm going to be hitting you up to come talk about it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So you mentioned AI, and I think it's one of those like those buzzwords that everyone is trying to talk about. And what I mean by that is, I have seen a lot of like media outlets. I've seen a lot of like tech websites. They're always asking our peers, as far as MSPs, what are you doing in AI? Like, what is the fast, cool, lean thing that you're doing? And I always feel like two things happen. Either A, there's just a lot of fluff, because I think that at the time of when the question is asked, and again, this has been over the last few years, there hasn't been really anything tangible that someone can put their hands on outside of the actual model language models of ChatGPT. And so once that kind of came to fruition, then everyone started seeing a little bit more of, hey, this is really what AI can do, right? And so, and part of panels that I've been a part of and things of that nature, we've leaned in on and as much of AI as we possibly can gather our mind around, right? Because everyone thinks AI, and then you hear all the murmurings of like, oh, we're going to lose jobs, or we're going to the joking Skynet's going to be taking over, and all this type of stuff. But I think that really, from what I hear from AI on the second part, is that it's always really been just internal, meaning that either an MSP is doing something internally with AI that doesn't really have a true customer facing action behind it.
Yeah.
But I think that that's where the model, like that's where the industry is starting to go to one, educate those of what AI really means, and two, turn it into something tangible. Can you tell me a little bit about what Hatz AI is really trying to do to A, change that narrative, right?
Yep.
And B, how are you trying to help MSPs understand that this is something that they can take to market?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to put MSPs in the AI business, and like we could talk more about that, and I'll get to that in a second. But the 15 seconds is AI is show don't tell, and it's a lot easier to sell than cybersecurity and moving to cloud was. So there's a huge
Mm,
opportunity there for MSPs and one man IT consultants. Like there's a big opportunity, but to put someone in the AI business, first they have to understand what they're talking about, right?
mhm.
Similar to what we had to with cyber. Like if we're going to go implement phishing solutions or security training, like we had to be able to hold a conversation about security. And then the second thing is you need to, use it yourself, use it internally.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. We're all of our products. We give access to MSPs to test and not for resale pricing and all that stuff. But also we're releasing probably around the time of this podcast release or a couple weeks. I don't know. Your turnaround time is probably super quick. A training program where you can get trained on what an LLM is, what's the difference between generative AI and machine learning, and how do they fit in, and what is prompt engineering? How can you do it? Where's the big picture of things? Where are things going? I think at its core, IT people, and this includes MSP owners, this includes consultants, this includes internal IT. What we do is we make technology easier for the average business user. And this AI wave is going to come storming in way faster than anyone's ready for. ChatGPT was kind of like, hey, we got this steam locomotive and there's no tracks built yet. And everybody's like scrambling to build the tracks around them to get the, technology. And then there's like all these other different locomotives being built too, like Google Gemini and, Llama 2 and Anthropic and all this stuff. I think it's going to happen a lot quicker than everyone's ready for. So while the actual tangible application, selling a SKU that you're making money off of, and a management line item like that says prompt engineering, or a billable hour that says prompt engineering, or AI managed services, I think that's all going to be coming in the next 2-3 months. At least that's what we're trying to do with our platform.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, education and training on what AI truly means is probably the biggest piece. It's kind of like you said, back to when, you were over at at your previous companies, talking cybersecurity on, introducing this foreign topic of SOC, right? And everyone was like, why do I need a SOC? Like, I got everything handled. Well, do you? And like now everyone's like, yeah, I got to have a SOC, or are they offering SOC services? And then, the insurance companies are asking for it. And even down to like going to what you just mentioned about how vast AI is, I can think of something comparable where like everyone was talking about the metaverse and Web 3.0, and everyone jumped on Meta's like, I forgot what the damn things are called, the Meta Quests and things of that nature. And then all of a sudden, everyone else started building metaverses, and like again, it's building those other tracks, right? And you're looking at the same type of similar scenario with AI. But on that piece, I wanted to talk to you about, because I feel like there's often a distinction or confusion behind automation platforms and AI platforms. In your opinion, are they one and the same, or are they very two vast things that work together to achieve some of the same goals, or maybe some of the same outputs that an MSP is trying to use?
Well, so if you look like up market in the enterprise, which is probably a good place to start with a lot of this stuff, RPA and AI are two different categories. Maybe you can achieve some results, either by merging them or using AI inside of an RPA software, for sure. But I think that like in general, there are two different areas with some overlap. I mean, I think both are very important. I think what the RPA companies are doing right now is amazing, and I appreciate all of the AI components that they're leveraging there. But I'm less focused on building automation inside of an MSP into building an AI services business out of an MSP that you can make money off of. And I think that's going to be like the different trend. Right now, we're so early that it's hard for people to see, and like, okay, this service has AI embedded in it, or this service uses AI to make decisions. Right. And like, there's going to be a lot of companies, and there already are, that are focused on solving the tickets automatically, right? And that's a great problem to solve, and we'll help with that a little bit, right? Just because like we're an AI company for MSPs, so we're going to help you work with your internal systems. But I see the bigger opportunity for MSPs as bringing the AI future to all of their customers, or differentiating from other MSPs, saying, you know, I can help you roll out AI and embed it in your organization. I can sit in a consultative session with you and deliver you use cases, and then actually execute on building these use cases where we can use AI. And we're also not focused on like specific areas, like we're AI as a whole. So like for example, we're heavy in voice right now. We have a product that we're actually piloting right now that can sit behind a PBX and take phone calls and answer questions and hold a full conversation. And it's an AI voice, it's an AI responses, and you know, the actions are a little bit of orchestration. But like it's not like it's different than and that's just like what we're working on this year. Like we're also looking at computer vision too, like MSPs who are in the you know, there's a subset, but it's big, especially in the IT world, people who are in the IP camera business.
Mhm.
You know, being able to track, like if you just have a camera set up in a parking lot, why not add AI to it where you can count the amount of spaces, measure utilization. If you have people walking in and out of a building, if you have someone who committed a crime in an area, you need facial recognition, like that. There's tons of AI use cases outside of Gen AI, or what people see like with Chat GPT, and we're working on all of them and trying to put MSPs in the business of delivering them to everyone. I mean, think about it. When you go through a drive-through window, like that's going to be AI taking your order very soon. And
Yeah.
who's going to help set that system up?
Right. And it's funny how you say that, right? Because like we started to see that where now, they started to with automation at first with the kiosks and things of that nature, and having AI built on top of that, in the drive-through window, in the like receiver box of taking the order and things of that nature. You actually just spawned a bunch of questions that I have right now. But the first one I want to actually bring to, just so like here we're all about bringing the tangibility, and for
Sure.
our audience to really understand, is this something for them, right? And so Microsoft just released their Copilot to SMBs, and they really are leaning into that type of AI. Would you say that, um, in this version of AI, and it sounds like obviously there's so many models, and AI is a vast um, bunch of models and languages and different type of models in that. Um, would you say that Copilot is something that, um, actually, I'm going to rephrase my question. So for Copilot that is coming out right now, and for those that are building their own language learning models and building out their own framework, is that a comparison to like public cloud and private cloud type situation where like people who are building out their cloud practices, they had their public clouds with Azure, et cetera, and then private clouds are hosting their own stuff? Would the same kind of concept apply to AI, where if someone was going to choose on the direction of AI that they wanted to do, they could possibly go to a public type AI, such as Copilot? And are there opportunities of private models to build their own? Can you shed a little bit of light of kind of that concept of, hey, there actually is this type of thing, and here has what some of MSPs have considered doing? Because I think
Yeah,
it's,
no,
again, such a vague topic that I'm curious on the diving into a little bit more on AI as a vast.
sure. So this past 6 months and over the next 6 months, maybe 12 months, maybe 2 years,
Mhm.
the wave that we're on is embedding AI into existing product suites.
Okay.
And so you see things like you go on Open Table and you want to book a table, instead of like clicking, pointing and clicking and filling it out, you say like, I want to eat at an Italian restaurant. And then AI does its magic. And so there's going to be a lot of that. And Office 365 Copilot, or Microsoft 365 Copilot, is probably the best execution of that, um,
Okay.
or the biggest. Um, because what it's doing is it's embedding AI into the Office 365 suite. I like, is it end all be all for AI use cases in an organization? No. Is it tough for MSPs because there's very little margin in the software? And then, you know, if you're already supporting Office 365, how do you add a line of business to support the AI use cases. I don't know, like it puts MSPs in a tough spot there. But I mean, it definitely is a differentiator. I think the biggest problem with Copilot that people are facing right now is the data readiness problem.
Yeah.
So for Copilot to really work the way that people want, that it works in the demos where you say, hey, what happened in my meeting yesterday? Or, what was this document for yesterday? Like your Office 365 needs to be set up properly. And like the reality of a lot of small businesses, it's just like not like files aren't stored in the right places. They're in downloads folders, or they're on some other system, or
sensitive
the
labels
business
are not put on right, and
they've been using Dropbox for years, right? So like I would say, like, for the clients that MSPs are supporting, there's really great use cases for Copilot. And I'm in no way trying to compete directly with Microsoft Copilot. I think that would be a silly move by me. But I think that everyone needs AI use cases, and to solve certain problems, it might not be the most efficient or best way. And it might also not be the best way for MSPs to manage that process as well, which is true for every Microsoft product that's out there,
Sure.
like it just is the way I don't know if that totally answered your question, but
No, it did. I mean, I think and it also helps leverage and understand kind of what you are trying to do at hatz.ai, right? Like you're trying to find scenarios that will allow an MSP to utilize AI to their advantage, and then B, actually look and provide it as a service and actually make, an actual offering out of it, right? And so, perfect example, like you mentioned the camera thing, right? And the vision, and being able to implement AI on a camera system. I know that there have been services trying to do that, right? And they somewhat have kind of quasi done it, but I know that, like, there's big regulatory needs for that. So, like, for example, in the cannabis industry, like, from seed to storefront, or to purchase in retail, like, you have to map that entire whole process. And they've had to leverage certain systems to try and even check that box, right? And so being able to have something like this on a much more, I wouldn't say automated, but a more efficient way, can help those that, again, small businesses that can't afford the manpower or the hours to, like, review the footage and things of that nature. And it's definitely an edge case that is something that can be tangible for someone who is in the IP and cameras business and things of that nature. So that was one of the things, how you mentioned, where some of these things, although people are concerned about AI, can really help on their regulatory and compliance needs if done in the right way. Um, from you kind of seeing that process, and kind of as you kind of review some of these needs, like you said, the IVR system, and allowing for dispatching to help a little bit further, were these just needs that you have heard from other MSPs because you've been having conversations with them over the past X amount of months, or maybe in the past year? Or what kind of made you think of, hey, these are some of the things we want to start off with, because these are opportunities to attach to right now?
So my big secret on how I've done so well figuring out what products and use cases work for MSPs is literally just talking to MSPs every single day of my life and
Yeah.
asking what your problems are. And I don't think enough people do that, but all of these use cases have come from conversations with MSPs. And a bit of it is I have the bigger picture. I know what AI technology is there, what's possible, what we're working on, what's easy to do, what's hard to do, how it could be productized. But like, I'm asking people for use cases every day or questions about their problems. Phone thing came from a couple MSPs mentioned it. And then, I go and build it and show proof of concept to someone, and they're like, hey, this is great, but like, I need this behind my PBX so it can transfer phone calls without having to navigate through a whole phone tree and have a bunch of extra hops and all that. And I'm like, okay, well, let me build that, and then, we do build the SIP connection so it can just transfer lines over. And Like I've seen too many organizations where they just won't talk to any MSPs and they'll want to get their product quote unquote perfect. And then they'll release it. And then it's like, hey, by the way, this isn't going to work at all because you built this to be like a fully web-based system. And we're using this like PBX that we've had on for, 10 years. And by the way, we make $20 a line off of every phone line here in recurring revenue. So there's no way we're ripping them all off. We know how to support them.
Right. Well, it's funny that you say that, right? And I think it's just because of your back. So one, because of your background, because I think you had a marketing role in several of the businesses that you were at and starting, and that's just a fundamental that all MSPs just need to do in general, let alone the vendors, right? It's like you won't know what your offering is going to do unless you ask your end user. Like, there's no better way to understand what the needs are. Like, I even think there are several books. I think the Pumpkin Plan is one of them that comes to mind that says, go to the source. Like, if you're wondering if your offering fell flat, the question is, did you even find out who the market was in the first place to build that success, right? And so the fact that you've done that in multiple realms, multiple the businesses that you are in, again, continuing it here with the AI, just proves that fundamental still stays strong. You have to ask the end user. Like, there's no other way to find that you hit a home run or something that falls flat without getting that inquisition and really understanding what they're coming from. And really just again, when it comes down to like the fundamentals of AI, because I think that you can correct me if I'm wrong, when you brought this topic up to them, did these MSPs who you had conversation with, and I'm assuming they're of all sizes, did they have some type of concept of what AI was, or was it more of a, hey, this is what I think's happening, and I want to try and do this. What do you think? Curious on
It show
how
don't tell. It show don't tell. So
Yeah.
like I'm like I'll go do the work and build product mock-ups and very detailed descriptions and a proof of concept, and that may take me 20 hours and working with like pre-company forming, hiring someone on Upwork to like design my idea in the middle of the night, and make it something where I could just show someone and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about building. What do you think of this?
Gotcha.
Versus me just saying, hey, well, by the way, here's large language models, and what if we could do it like this? Like someone says to me, well, could you do something with the phone? Okay, here's a proof of concept, here's what it sounds like. It takes 15 seconds to respond. Like, if I could get it down to 2 seconds, would that work for you? Yeah. Okay, show a couple people, make it better, mess with the prompts, blah 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 blah. Okay, what do you think of this? Okay, this is great, but how do you want to implement it? This is how our phone system works, blah blah blah. So it's like, it takes work to be able to do that properly, I think.
Sure.
But it's so worth it, because the alternative is to just invest tons of money in engineering hours and tons of time, and then the product comes out and somebody's like, yeah, it's not gonna work. How do I add another tenant? Like, how many times does that happen?
Right. Well, it's funny, right? Because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, having that dedication to understand that you're trying to do this in a more gradual way, as you mentioned, to show the proof of concept. But two, right, you don't want to come at the end and then say, well, your baby's ugly. Sorry. This is the reason why, right? And so that's great on the fact that you're trying to move forward, that you're trying to gain that movement. Now, for hatz.ai, is the plan for the bit, because it's hatz.ai is not live as of yet, correct?
No,
like for the MSPs. Okay.
Not yet.
So, so is the concept for hatz.ai is to not only provide some of these edge cases and products to help the MSPs and their offerings, but I'm assuming there will be an educational component to this as well for those for adoption on that. Will that be more of like partner enablement, or that's going to be a leading effort to do
like
that?
Get certified in prompt engineering by hatz.ai? Any MSP can sign up.
Roger that. Okay. Very cool. So outside of some of the things that we've talked about, what is the kind of the vision for hatz.ai? Are we looking at a launch date of sometime in 2024? I think on the website there is a date for when it will be launched. What's kind of the the plan for the grand opening, so to speak?
So we have about 10 MSPs who have been with me from the start, pre-announcement, who they get first access. And so in March, as my timer ticks down, we're going to set them up, and they're going to be do the first tests with their customers and give early access to their customers. And then after that, we have a wait list. We've had it up since we announced the company launch January 4th. And I mean, there's a couple hundred MSPs currently on that wait list. So we're going to be giving access to people. We're giving access as fast as we can. So we're giving access in bunches, basically. And we, as more people come on board, here's what we can offer you. Here's our rollout program. Here's, what we found. And then I think in probably 2-3 months, it'll be fully self-service, where if you're an MSP, you can go on our website. We just verify that you're an MSP, and then we give you access where you can, get your NFRs and start rolling out to your clients if you want to. So we're moving fast, man. And the reason that we can move so fast is because we've integrated AI in literally every single thing we do. So every person's doing like the work of what was 5 or 10 people a couple years ago. So
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that, because it's like I always hear Matt Lee talk about, like, if he was going to start his MSP today, how much less human capital is going to be required for him to get to where he wants at the speed that he was looking to, because of all the technologies and availability, such as AI in this case. And it sounds like from when you open up access to those first 10 MSPs, and then when everything is full service, we'll then learn a little bit more on, what does it look like as far as an investment with the business, what the commitments are, things of that nature, and really just how they can improve their services as well. I think my last question for you on all of this is, from the talks of fundamentals of AI, and those trying to figure out how to adopt it, do you have any, I wouldn't say resources, but what is something that you can leave with them to say, hey, I think if you're looking into AI and trying to figure out if AI is for you, let alone hatz.ai, where would you think that they should start, just to kind of just pique their interest a little bit more, outside of just the marketing collaborations you hear of, ChatGPT, Copilot, things of that nature? Because again, as you mentioned, AI is such a vast thing, and sometimes it could be a little overwhelming to understand what could it truly do. Is there anything that you could share with the listeners that are piqued by it, but just a little overwhelmed and just are trying to figure out what's the best way, or what best direction to look into?
yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not even trying to do a shameless plug, but I'm literally building all this. If you get
Okay.
on our wait list, we're going to be sending out in probably the next 2-3 weeks the first learning platform. So it's a whole LMS system where you can go and get a certification, and we break down what a large language model is, how to talk about it in the context of your clients, how you can do prompt engineering. What is a good prompt? How do you use it for business use cases? That sort of thing. So like we're doing it because there isn't really anything great right now in the context of MSPs, or at least something where you can really sit down and learn. So like, me, man, I'm not trying to come and plug myself.
No, I got you.
Trying
And
to build
then,
that
will it be open to just the US at first, or is it going to be
everywhere.
international? Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, Jimmy, I think we spent quite a bit of time here. I really wanted to make this show a little bit different than some of the interviews you've had, because I know everyone's really just been diving more into the business. And I think for our audience, you hear AI, but they want to know a little bit more on those fundamentals. So I really appreciate you kind of clarifying a lot of that, and the resources that's going to be coming out soon here in the next couple of weeks. This episode should be released, I believe, February 22nd. So we should have that out here coming up soon. But, for any lasting words or anything that we may not have covered, is there anything that you wanted to share before we kind of just make sure we get those links, and so people can reach out to you to learn more about hatz.ai?
No, I mean, you can find us on hatz.ai is our website. Connect with me on LinkedIn. But really, like, this AI wave's coming. It's here. And there's a whole AI future that's being built right now. And if you're out ahead of it, you as an MSP have the opportunity to build your own AI future. And that's why our tagline is what it is: build your AI future. So
Nice.
I'll leave the community with that.
Awesome. Jimmy, always a pleasure to talk to you. Love chatting with you when we're either on the road or being able to sit down on the podcast, and even on the podcast that you have hosted as well. Always a true pleasure. So appreciate you taking the time. Love the conversations we have always. And then for all those of you, if you like what you if you like what you hear here, say that 3 times fast, tune in every week. Watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and you'll be notified whenever a new episode is available. You can also take us with you on the go. We're on your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, to name a few. And also, don't forget, head over to TechCon Unplugged to get your tickets. It looks to be a very great show indeed, as this is, again, our 5th annual event, and it's going to be one to remember. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.